What's up, everybody? Welcome back to a Tomatoito Boxing Show. What a scene that it was out in Phoenix, Arizona. I made the travel out to go check out the Bam Rodriguez Gallo Estrada fight. What an amazing scene! Again, I've said this in the past, and I'm going to continue to say it, or telling you guys that Phoenix, Arizona is quickly becoming the newest and possibly one of the best boxing hubs out in the U.S., and at least out in the West Coast. Yes, we always have the traditional Las Vegas fights and the Los Angeles fights, but Phoenix, Arizona is attracting a lot of people, and it is packing these fights every single time that they have an event. We had Munguia Ryder, packed scene out there. We had Bam and Sonny Edwards out in December, and now Bam and Gallo Estrada. It's a fight where, of course, this was going to attract a lot of... It was a very attractive fight. It was a very notorious fight. And what a scene it was. I mean, it wasn't like it was the most... like the heaviest stack card, kind of like the Davis and Benavides co-main event. It wasn't. Bam and Gallo led the whole way. Took the weight on their shoulders and delivered. You had people like Virgil Ortiz on hand. You had Phoenix locals like Maximus Castro, who was on hand. Mikey Garcia. Very, very, very good scene. And one fighter that I ended up running across, again, I did not do press for this event. I just showed up with some company, with some friends and family, and just went to enjoy the fight. And as I'm walking around, I end up running across Jesus Ramos. Had never met him before, approached him. I had no equipment with me. Very amateur move on my part. No equipment with me. And I conducted an interview with Jesus Ramos, with Mono Ramos, who campaigns at 154. And conducted an interview with them with a cell phone recording. It was so loud in there that the microphone could barely pick it up. And so it sucks, because that's the last thing I want to do. It was very amateurish of me to have done that instead of have held. But when I saw him, I just had to take the chance and go talk to him and interview him. I'm going to put that interview up on the YouTube channel, and I apologize in advance, but I am going to do right by him. I'm going to see if I could get another interview, a follow-up interview with him, to where I have all my equipment with me and I could actually conduct a proper interview and do right by Mono Ramos and present him in a good light. It was a chance that I took, and it is what it is, right? And so the way it came out, I'm gonna upload the video. I apologize in advance for the audio issues, but I'm gonna do my best to ensure that the subtitles do right by you. So as the noise is killing you, you'll be able to read the conversation at the very minimum, or follow with the conversation in the very minimum. It was cool. It's just a few minutes that I managed to talk to him, but what a great guy. What a great guy. What a humble guy, Jesus Ramos. And so yeah, it was a great scene out there in Phoenix, Arizona. And Bam Rodriguez, officially the legend killer. There's one guy that remains, and that would be Chocolatito. And Chocolatito ended up sparring with Bam in preparation for this fight against Gallo Estrada. Bam was on point. Bam was selective and accurate with his punch output. And Gallo Estrada, the traditional warrior, was bringing the fight to Bam Rodriguez, but was getting picked apart, especially whenever he would come headhunting. Bam would pick him apart in the body and then follow up with some type of uppercut or some type of attack to the head as a follow-up. They started exchanging, and Gallo is a warrior. Gallo is one of my favorite all-time fighters, and he took the fight to Bam Rodriguez, did whatever he could, but he does get dropped in the 4th round. He actually drops Bam Rodriguez for the first time in his career in the 6th round. And we started having a fight. Juan Francisco Estrada started bruising heavily in his face. you could start seeing the accumulation of the damage that Bam was starting to inflict on Gallo Estrada. Bam looked big in the ring. He looked bigger than Estrada. For someone who's gone down to 112 and then 115 now, he looked big. He took the fight to Gallo, had an answer for everything that Gallo was throwing at him. If Gallo came with a 1-2, Bam was ducking and delivering an uppercut. If Gallo moved laterally and delivered hooks, Bam was dropping body shots on him. And that's how he ends up getting him. In the 7th round, they're exchanging. The fight is at its climax in the 7th round. They're going back and forth with each other. And this is a round removed from when Gallo drops Bam Rodriguez. A flash knockdown at that Bam ends up getting up smiling. And ends up delivering this nasty body shot amidst the exchange against Gallo Estrada. Hurts him so bad that Gallo is rolling around the ring in pain, could not get up, could not answer the referee's count. And that was all she wrote. Bam Rodriguez regains his WBC Super-Flyweight title, and now he took it from the man. So he started this journey when he moved up and stepped in. Remember, the whole journey started when Gallo Estrada fell out due to, I believe it was COVID. So he pulled out of the fight against Carlos Cuadras when they were going to run it back. Bam steps in. Nobody really knew who Bam was. Then people started catching on that he was the brother of Joshua Franco. Joshua Franco, of course, was a champion back then, had those wars with Maloney. And then everybody's like, all right, let's see how Bam does. Bam ends up dropping and picking Príncipe Cuadras apart. Then he goes on a few months later and defeats Sor Rungvisai. And continues his career, and now he gets into the ring with Gallo Estrada, basically beating the 3 top dogs of that division of the 4, Chocolatito being the outlier. And it's not completely out of the question, because he was asked about that, if there's anything that would hold him off on having a fight with Chocolatito, and he said, well, he was his training partner, he has a personal relationship with him and a friendship, but if the money was right, and it's a business, then he wouldn't stand in the way of facing Chocolatito in a real fight. And I think the fact that people are listing him as the legend killer, I think that's right. The undercard had Gatito Curiel. And let's talk before we jump on the undercard. Bam now improves to 19-0. Stepped into the ring as a 19-0 fighter. He's now 20-0, perfect, with 13 knockouts. To think that he got a decision against Cuadras, but stops Rungvisai, stops Sonny Edwards in his last outing in December, and now stops Gallo Estrada. Back-to-back stoppages, but of the 4 Príncipes of 115, as they were calling them, he has stopped Rungvisai and Gallo Estrada. Decision win over Príncipe Cuadras, and we'll see if he actually has that fight happen with Chocolatito down the line. Now, for Bam, that's not what he wants. Bam Rodriguez is actually going to be tuning in on Sunday, which is going to be Pumita fighting, what's his name? I get that name confused. I'll tell you right now. Let's look it up. Because Pumita is in action against the other champion, and that's going to be a unification. It's not a Kui. There we go. So Pumita is fighting Ioka. And I get those names. So Pumita, Fernando Daniel Martinez, El Pumita Martinez, 16-0, 9 knockouts out of Argentina. He's the IBF champ. He's going to be fighting Katsuto Ioka. So Katsuto Ioka has the WBA title. Big unification bout for this division taking place on Sunday out in Japan, out in Tokyo. So Martinez Ioka, whoever comes out as a unified champ, that's who Bam wants. Not only does he have, and then the ring title was thrown into this fight. So now he's the WBC and lineal champ and would want to negotiate against the winner of Ioka and Pumita Martinez. And remember, Katsuto Ioka is the same man who defeated his brother. He had a draw against Joshua Franco and then defeated Joshua Franco in June of last year. So that would be a revenge type scenario, or one where Bam would be looking to avenge his brother's loss if Ioka comes out successful against Pumita Martinez. If Pumita comes out successful, then that would be a great fight between whoever it is that wins, Bam and Ioka, or Bam Martinez, would be action-packed. Great fighters in that division. And then the only other fighter in that division would be Kosei Tanaka, who has the WBO title in that division. So that division's fun. A lot of movement going on now that Bam returned. And of course, there's talks about Bam fighting Naoya Inoue as well. So we'll see if that ever comes to fruition. But I think the most realistic route for Bam Rodriguez next is to wait and see what happens Sunday and then negotiate a unification bout versus the winner of Ioka and Pumita Martinez. The co-main event was between Sonny Edwards, the same Sonny Edwards who was stopped by Bam this past December in their unification bout at 112. And he was fighting Gatito Curiel. Adrian Curiel is coming off those back-to-back awesome fights that he had against Notsinga, where he pulls the shocker on Notsinga with the knockout stoppage and then comes back himself and gets stopped. He stopped Notsinga in the second round, shocked the world, lifted that title from him. That's a fight at 108, if you guys recall that. Lifts the IBF title from Notsinga. They run it back just 3 months apart. And Notsinga pulls off the 10th round knockout against Gatito Curiel and regains his IBF title. So Curiel moves up to 112, fights Sonny Edwards, and the fight was brought to a stoppage where Sonny Edwards was awarded the victory by way of the judges' scorecards. He gets a 90-82, an 88-84, and an 87-85 scorecards to give him a technical decision victory. The fight was stopped due to a large gash that Sonny Edwards suffered during the fight. So Sonny Edwards returns to his winning ways. He now improves to 21-1, 4 knockouts, and the only loss in his career is the stoppage loss to Bam Rodriguez. Gurriel, 25-6 with 1 draw and back-to-back losses for him. For Gallo Estrada, after the fight, going back to the main event, Gallo Estrada said that he knew his mistakes, he caught on to it, and he would like to avenge the fight. He wants to pursue a rematch. I don't know how much will change on the rematch, but he's a legendary fighter who now gets the 4th loss of his career. And this is the first time that he was stopped. His first loss was back in 2011 against Juan Carlos Sanchez. Second loss against Chocolatito back in 2012, which was the beginning of the trilogy between them. And then lost to Rungvisai by majority decision in 2018. All decisions until he runs into Bam Rodriguez, who stops him with that body shot in the 7th round of this past Saturday night's main event. He wants the rematch. He's 44-4 with 28 knockouts to his credit. Not sure if many would like to entertain that rematch because he was starting to make a good fight. He was starting to exchange, but the way in which Bam stopped him was not a fluke. So how does he protect from that body shot when Bam was mixing up his attack the way he was? He just had his number. It was a competitive fight, but it wasn't a tightly contested fight. It was a competitive fight, but it was clear that Bam was starting to run away with this. If it was going to go by way of scorecards or if the stoppage was looming. It was clear. It was evident. As we're watching it there in the crowd live, we started seeing Bam starting to walk away with this, especially after the 4th round drop. So when Gallo breathed some life into himself by dropping Bam in the 6th, yeah, everybody got excited because we're like, oh, we got a fight in our hands, and we sure as hell did. But Bam found a way to stay composed and deliver a shot that Gallo was not expecting. Set him up perfectly and deliver that shot right to the liver. What a scene it was out in Phoenix, Arizona. And I'll leave you guys with that. What a hell of a fight. I'm glad I was there. So I'll talk to you guys all soon. Let's see what Bam chooses to do next. Let's keep an eye out on Sunday's fight between Ioka and Pumita Martinez, because that's going to be very telling, especially if Ioka wins. It's going to be very telling and definitely a lot more motivation to sign that Bam and Ioka fight, because there's a little bit of a respect and bad blood there since he defeated and lifted the title from his brother, Joshua Franco. So I'll leave you guys with that. Take care of yourselves. Have yourselves a great night, and I'll talk to you all in the next episode.